waking up 10 days later, not knowing that I was gone for 10 days. That was, talk about shock. I was diagnosed at a very young age with Hodgkin's lymphoma. I was only 15 years old, and I lived in a very small town. And the year was 1986. So cancer was not as prevalent as it is right now. I actually found out I had Hodgkin's lymphoma pretty much on a whim. I had cut my finger pretty good working my first job. I was working in a custom meat counter because I showed cattle most of my life for 4-H and FFA. And I had a cut, and it was like a fresh cut. Even 3 weeks later, it hadn't even closed. It didn't look like it had healed at all. And so I asked my mom if I could go to the doctor, my pediatrician in my town. He took one look of my neck and asked, how long had that been there? And I was like, but my thumb. And does your neck hurt? And I was like, well, yeah, I've been talking about that for 6 months. It does hurt. It was inside my actual collarbone. So instead of it being concaved, it actually grew outward. So you could see that there was an actual growth there versus the way your bone looks on the other side. That's what he spotted during this quick little visit of what's going on with my finger. He asked me where my parents were. Long story short, he called them. Of course, in the 80s, there was no cell phones. Tracked down my parents and said she needs to go to an emergency appointment tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. I already got her one. My parents were like, why? And he said, well, I'm going to have her checked for cancer. She needs to do a needle biopsy. And so an ear, nose, and throat specialist and surgeon did a bunch of needle biopsies on my neck, and it came back that afternoon that I had cancer. But you have to sit down after all of that shock wears off, and you really don't listen to what they're saying. You are in tunnel vision, and it sounds like everyone's underwater as they're talking to you about your diagnosis. It's very much the same side effects of fainting. So when everything goes to a very small window and you're going to faint, everything turns black. You just feel that. You don't feel like you're in your body as they're explaining these things to you. My very first surgery. Walking down that corridor to a surgery, which now as an older adult, I can very much appreciate how amazing my surgeon was. Listening to lots of loud music, everyone's having fun, they're walking all around. They were preparing for battle. They were preparing for an 18-hour surgery. And I'm walking into it completely blind as a 15-year-old. And they were very nice. There was nothing more you could, prepare me for. Taking a bath in Benadine or shower from head to toe and just walking into this scenario. But I did. I walked all the way there. And boy, did it not feel like I was walking into a new part of my life. It definitely felt like I was walking into the end of my life. With that being said, no patient wants to go under when you're in that state, when the anxiety is at such a high that you cannot control your feelings in the inside, much less your heart rate, your breathing, not where you want to be. I know that I had an outer body experience in that surgery. With that, I didn't understand what was happening to me at the time. And I haven't told anyone but my husband this story. So from that, instantly, for me, everything is black. But I have a reaction. Well, very few people can actually do this. This is extremely rare, where you start coming to and you start hearing everyone talking. Now, at that point, I don't have any memory at all of opening my eyes. I have a memory of everything being black because obviously my eyes were closed. But the next few seconds, I'm actually above myself, watching everyone work very frantically on me on the table. And I saw myself very, very vividly. I went to go panic, and instantly I felt this amazingly warm home presence. And I don't know, because I never had the courage to turn my head. As a 15-year-old, I didn't turn. As a 55-year-old, of course I would have turned, but I didn't. So for that presence to be standing right behind me and putting a hand on my shoulder and telling me that everything was going to be okay. My 15-year-old self did not agree with that. I instantly fought. I said, I'm 15 years old. It is not my time. It is not my time. I have not had a chance to love. I don't even know what love is at this point. Why those words came to me, I'm not sure. But the presence behind me said, "Are you sure?" And everything in me said, yes. And the next thing I felt was the biggest push, but I don't remember seeing anything. I must have closed my eyes thinking I was going to fall down to the ground. A natural reaction, right? Closing your eyes to protect yourself. But I woke up 10 days later from a coma. I was in a medically induced coma because my surgery had many ups and downs and lots of turns. And with that, I'd flatlined and aspirated a few times. During one of those aspiration times, while you have your breathing tube down your throat, was this experience. Do I know it was absolutely real or not? Was it in my head because of anesthesia or not? I cannot tell you for sure, but my heart knows what happened. Waking up 10 days later, not knowing that I was gone for 10 days. That was, talk about shock. You see those different movies where that happens, where someone's been in a coma and they talk about people hearing everything, people understanding in the room. That happened for me during those 10 days. Now, in my timeline for my brain, that was maybe a few hours at best. So my brain would wake up enough to know someone was in the room, someone walked in, someone has perfume. I can smell they have alcohol to clean something. I'd feel a presence on my hand, a shoulder. Maybe it was my mom kissing my forehead, or maybe it was a friend who stopped by and they're just bawling and their tears are now hitting my arm. I could feel the tears hitting and falling down. I was having conversations with every single person who was standing at my bed. So in my mind, my eyes were open and we're having a conversation and I'm turning to them, looking at them, but I wasn't. My eyes were closed and I was not part of that conversation. So when I woke up, I just remember being really feisty because they wanted me to get up. Of course, opening my eyes, they're like, oh, we got to get you out of bed. You're supposed to walk. I've got a feeding tube on. Oh no, the feeding tube didn't work. We don't know why. Well, okay, well, she just needs to get up and walk. And I mean, everything was it felt like I went from a snail to now I'm on NASCAR speedway. And I was like, this is too fast. And in my mind, that was 5 minutes. It could have been a day, but in my mind, that was 5 whole minutes of making me walk, get up and walk. I think I made it 10 steps and I buckled, and that's like all I could do. And it took me a long time to understand survivor's guilt, the late effects you can have from things that happen to you medically that you can still experience even now that I'm 40 years anniversary. I had the question, why me? I think that's been written and we've seen in movies and we've seen over and over again and in a lot of testimonies. Why me? Why me versus somebody else? I did not understand that question as a 15-year-old. As you get older and you get more connected to God and to see how your life unfolds, hindsight, we definitely understand more about ourselves, but really what God's plan was. And I did not understand that plan as a 15-year-old. When I turned 50 and I'm like, you're not as young as you used to be. I really came to this understanding that peace was what I really cherished, and I was going to do everything in my life to find that peace. Job, moving, becoming a grandma, cutting out external noise. Unfortunately, cutting out people in my life that created the stressors and the external noise. I started thinking I'm on a different path and I'm on a different journey. But what I really realized is I was on the journey I was meant to be on. Because when you take away all that extra noise, you start to hear exactly what you were meant to hear, and you were not hearing it, if that makes sense. The external noise of social media, the external noise of stress, even living in SoCal, everything is just go, 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 go. And if you are on time, you're 5 minutes late type of thing. Moving to an area in the Pacific Northwest where things are much quieter, I actually can go out into the middle of the forest. I realize there's not all the extraneous sounds, and I can literally start listening to what I should have been listening to. And I really started to getting into tune to that and knowing that, did I just make myself go on a path, or would I veer back to the path I need to be on? And I truly believe with everything in my heart that I veered back to the path I need to be on. And it came in a form of something I just didn't think that actually would give me that answer. And so I have spent 40 years trying to figure out that answer. And it was the day my husband came in and he said, I don't feel well. And instantly I looked at his neck and I felt this I can't even begin. I don't even think I can put a vocabulary word on it. This amazing need to get someone to listen to me because my husband has cancer. And he had a growth on his neck. Now, it wasn't very big at the time. And I was like, why would I feel that way? Why would I jump to the conclusion that Kevin, my husband, has cancer? But everything in my body said to keep going. I spent a long time going through all the tests, inconclusive, you scans, blood, visual inspections, everything. It took me more than 8 weeks to get someone to finally listen. But I don't regret them not listening, because really, if you were to walk in and look at him, you're like, he doesn't have cancer. Yeah, he has a little thing showing up in his blood, but that's normal for the age. Yeah, I mean, visually he has something on his neck, but it could be, a lymph node that's non-reactive. When I finally got a doctor to do a needle biopsy, which was done on me, and I asked him to run it stat, and that really super nice doctor who just really wanted me to understand Kevin did not have cancer. And I just said, please, if you knew someone for 42 years, you would know something's really wrong. Prove me wrong. I'm paying for the test. Prove me wrong. Someone came to me in my sleep and said, you're on the right path, and keep digging deeper. In my mind, that dream had the same voice. In my heart, I know it was the same protective, to me, archangel that was saying, this is what you're meant to do. You were meant to go through head and neck cancer so that you could help your husband go through head and neck cancer. And it made sense. It made huge, literally, it was the most big world revelation on the face of the earth to me. Like the heavens opened up and just said, that's why. And we walked into this whole journey together as bookends. Me to him. With the best faith that no matter what happens, that God will provide. And unbelievably, during this whole journey, he has done just that. Every step of the way. And we're not done. We're not even remotely done in this journey. We don't know he's cancer free. We don't know a lot of things, but what we do know as part of my healing is his healing. Is that as long as you pray, the Lord is going to provide, and he's going to put systems in place, people in place, prayers in place, things that when you absolutely need it, no matter how small, it's absolutely the most perfect timing.